Station.
Want to chime in on what's happening with your favorite KFAN program? Make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryan text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
What's that?
I was just going to tell you off the air the potential stuff we could talk about on the air.
What you just said on my...
That, and yeah, there's a couple other NFL things.
Oh, are there? Well, we'll do this one this is a good one that you just said on my chair. But before I do that, I want to do this one. CBS Sports, one of my favorite, CBSSports.com, one of my favorite websites, because they have literally hundreds of stories each and every day, and they just keep updating and updating and updating. Do a lot of list stories, and you know me, I love list radio. It's lazy radio. And this one was 2025 NFL Combine. One thing we learned about every NFC team while we were in Indianapolis. So I scroll down to the NFC North, Hennepy, and these are the things they learned about each NFL team. Chicago Bears looking to upgrade the offensive line. I think they're also looking to upgrade their defensive line, their defensive secondary. There isn't much they're not looking to upgrade. Detroit Lions, confidence high in new coaching staff. Well, what else are they going to say? In all honesty. So they go to Dan Campbell at the Combine and go, Dan, you got a new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator. What do you think of them? They're replacing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, two guys that were highly successful. Matter of fact, Ben Johnson won the, Coordinator of the Year award or whatever it was, assistant coach. And he said, Dan, goes, well, we kind of scraped the bottom of the barrel here. We got the best we could. I don't know. There was other guys I'd rather have. So, of course, he's going to say they're confident. Having confidence in your coaching staff of your two coordinators doesn't guarantee anything. Next one, Green Bay Packers. And I don't think this comes as a surprise to most people. My connection in Green Bay is Badger Bob. And Badger Bob knows his Green Bay Packer football, right? Jair Alexander could be on the block.
Oh, my God.
He's been injury-riddled, right?
Yeah.
And I've heard, at least according to the people I trust, that he might be milking it a little bit. Have you heard that?
I haven't heard anything about Jair Alexander.
I think he might be. I've heard he's milking it a little bit. One of those guys that, not really feeling like playing here today.
I want nothing to do with those kind of guys on my teams. Yeah.
Now he's
talented,
supremely talented, right? One of the best. I mean, matter of fact, weren't we supposed to look forward to Jair Alexander and Justin Jefferson battles twice a year for the next 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. Those two guys were going to go. It was going to be like, we don't need to double Justin. We've got Jair, which I think we all look forward to. I mean, you and I have discussed this before. I loved the NFC North last year because it was competitive. Yeah, if you want to guarantee yourself a playoff spot, it's nice to be New England and have the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Bill. For years, those teams were just mediocre at best, right? So you were almost always guaranteed a 6 wins. Certainly, you're going 5-1. If you went 4-2, there was something wrong with New England, right? But they're usually going 5-1 or 6-0. They're winning the playoffs, getting home field advantage, right? It's nice. And that's nice for any team if you're of whatever team you are a fan of in the North. But I liked last year when you had 15-2, a 14-3, and what did Green Bay end up 11-6? And then the Bears were 4-2 at one point, and I do think they are going to probably get better under Johnson. But yeah, I look forward to the Alexander against Jefferson. I'd like to see those matchups one-on-one, wide receiver and defensive back. And then the Vikings, we talked about this earlier. Vikings won't break the bank to reunite with Sam Darnold. And I think that's kind of a given, right? It's, the head coach said almost, it was a couple of days after the season ended, he said, I think Sam's earned the right to dabble in free agency, right? Didn't he say that? Something to that effect. Mm-hmm. So that would lead you to believe you're going to let him go to free agency. And I think, and look, I was just talking to a couple of people last week about this. I talked to Lieber about it. Another friend of mine, John Montague, was pretty plugged in. And a couple of other people, maybe you and I have talked about it. So I'm sort of kind of, I guess I'm playing it both ways in this, and I've been known to do that on other occasions. Darnold was, he was in the talk for MVP. Then he had a really bad game against Detroit. I think the Rams game, you can spread a lot of blame out. We talked about that earlier. And it seems as though people are not hesitant at all to let Darnold go for some of the obvious reasons, salary cap, right? We don't have the draft picks, and we want to use the cap money we have to fill some positions that we're in need of. And quarterback's going to eat up $40 million minimum. There goes a lot of your money, blah, blah, blah. But I think a lot of people look at that one Detroit game and go, well, we can't ever trust him. He's terrible. And if you're going to judge a guy on one bad game, it was an important game.
Might be two games, but yeah.
Well, but I
agree with you that the Rams was not just Darnold.
Yes, that offensive line gave him no time to throw. But you could say two games.
Yeah.
But certainly the Detroit game, which was huge because, I know that game wasn't bigger than the one in the playoffs because the playoffs game ended your season. But you win that Detroit game. You go from
you advanced around in the playoffs, yeah.
You go from fifth to first. You get everything at home as long as you win. You get to sit the first week, rest players, etc. So that was a huge loss. So, I look at people and I go, but because of that one really bad game, and maybe mediocre, you're ready to just give up on him. And a lot of people are saying, yeah. And I guess at the same time, I'm sort of kind of ready to move on as well. But I don't think it's necessarily for me because he was bad in that Detroit game. Now, that's the chance you take. Let's say you re-sign him or some other team is going to get him. He's going to play next year somewhere. What if he does the same thing? What if he has a really good regular season, gets to a critical game late, and the same thing happens? Yeah, well, that is the chance you take, right? But with so many needs for the Vikings, and I guess I'm falling into that same trap I always fall into, Tenneby, where I have my doubts about a player, a unit, a team, a coach, an ownership, and you start listening to the Duckies and Bunnies of the world, and everybody seems to think that McCarthy is on a journey to a franchise quarterback where he's going to be our guy for 10, 12 years, and he's going to be brilliant. And he very well could be. The high school and college career were great. And that very first preseason game, he was pretty sharp. Now, he's playing against some other second stringers. But, I guess you have to, you got to take your chance eventually, right? You got to make a decision. And I guess if I'm making that decision, I probably go with McCarthy, right? I don't know what else you can do because it's because of that $41 million minimum price tag. That's the minimum, right? If you for the tag,
yeah.
Because otherwise he might be able to get more outside the tag, and
for more years, obviously,
right? For more years, and then there is always the possibility. I guess he could. I'm sure he did like it here. He had his most success here. He probably does give a lot of credit to quarterback whisperer guy. So maybe he is the kind of guy that would say, you know what? Yeah, you could tag me for 40. I may be able to get about the same for 3 or 4 years in the open market. But I really liked it here, and I'd like to come back again. And by gosh, if you'll give me 25 a year rather than 10, even if it's a one-year deal, I'd do it. I don't think he would do that. But let me ask you that question. If Sam Darnold's representation told you, we'll come back on a one-year deal for $25 million, would you do it?
A 1 year for 25?
Yeah.
Why would he do that?
I'm just saying if he did, because he liked it here and wants to play here again.
I don't see a scenario in which he doesn't
I said just hypothetically.
Sure.
You would do that. Right.
It's an unrealistic hypothetical situation, but yeah.
But that would be about the most I'd be wanting to pay because this team because of the lack of draft picks, they need those extra dollars. They just have to. So I think they probably are moving on from old Sam. I guess it's just tomorrow is when you can tag, right?
The final day to tag, yeah.
Is the final day is to pop the tags tomorrow.
There was another tag in the NFL not that long ago.
Well, let's get to that. And you gave me another controversial story, Vikings related, that raises some interesting issues. We'll take a look at that as well here on the Common Man program on the Fan.
Metallica, Barry Manilow, Linda Ronstadt, Mama Cass Elliott.
Couple 13-14 past. I'm Calm and he's Tennessee. Before we go any further, Tennessee, I have some more breaking news for you. My sources, I'm breaking this. I'm reporting that Marc-Andre Fleury, also known as Flower, will retire at the end of this season.
Oh my gosh.
Think about it. I broke two pieces of news today. Louis Nanny
Wow.
will not be doing the Minnesota State High School hockey tournament for the first time in 60 years. And Marc-Andre Fleury will be retiring.
That's a big one.
That's a really big one. The guy's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, nobody heard of that.
Is he second most on the? Is he has the second most victories in the history of the National Hockey League as a netminder? Hell yeah, it's a big story. We only break big stories here on the Common Man program. We're going to talk about Justin in a second here, and when I say second, I mean like literally just a couple of seconds. I want to read one text message before that though. Because he was on with Pat McAfee apparently earlier today. But this text message says, comment, Justin Jefferson is nothing like Keyshawn Diggs. I think he's comparing, Keyshawn and Diggs is the same kind of player. Diggs only has ever cared about money and stats. How do you know Justin Jefferson doesn't just care about money and stats? Now, we don't think he does. We think that he cares about more than just that. They all do. They all want to win. And what's to say guy can change his mind? I mean, put it this way, Tennessee. If Justin Jefferson, over the next 2, 3, 4 years with the Vikings, doesn't get to an NFC championship game or a big game, he could change his mind.
Sure.
That's the thing. Guys can change their minds. Right now, it looks like all he wants to do is play for the Vikings and try to win football games. He might even say, I'd like to retire here, and he could have every intention of that, much like we talked about Buxton was quoted in a Fish Wrap Factory West Side story today, is he wants to end his career as a Twin.
Have you ever heard of a honeymoon period?
Well, that's it. That's the other thing. That's exactly the way to put it. It can change in a hurry. I'm not saying it will, but you can't say it won't either. Here's the story from Mike Florio from NBCSports.com. He appears on the Paul Allen Project on a regular basis. The headline of the story says, Justin Jefferson, who the quarterback is, doesn't matter to me. Here's what he told Pat McAfee today. I'm not sure who the quarterback is going to be, and just like I said last year, it truly doesn't matter personally to me. It doesn't matter who's going to throw me the ball. I'm going to make the most of my opportunities. I'm going to try to make him look like the best quarterback in the whole NFL. Just making the contested catches, making those catches that look difficult be easy. So just having that confidence in me and just creating that connection with the quarterback, no matter who the quarterback is going to be, that's the main part. And just having the confidence in each other, too, when it's all said and done, is getting to be crunch time. They know who to go to. The story goes on to read, during his 5 years with the Vikings, Jefferson has caught passes from Cousins, Mannion, Dobbs, Mullins, Hall, and Darnold. Whether Darnold will be back remains to be seen. If it's not him, it will likely be McCarthy or possibly someone like Jones. Regardless, Jefferson has shown he can produce at a high level regardless who the quarterback is, especially in the 3 years that head coach Kevin O'Connell has been directing the team's offense, blah, 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 blah. So that it's not really breaking news, because that's something Jefferson has said before. And you certainly, I don't think a good teammate's not going to say, well, to be honest with you, I'd rather have Darnold than McCarthy right now because I just don't know what JJ's got. I haven't seen enough. Or he's not going to say, yeah, I want JJ. I mean, Darnold, you see Darnold in that game against Detroit? He overthrew me 3 times. I mean, come on. So he's not going to say anything. But I sort of tend to believe him that he is that kind of a guy like, have hands, will travel, I don't care who throws the ball to me. So, and he has shown it hasn't really made much of a difference, right?
I think ultimately, at least what he has going for him is he has an offensive-minded head coach. Well, we can argue whether he's a quarterback whisperer or not, but at the very least, he has a coach that wants to set him up for success. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to have a quarterback in place that's going to make all those throws, but at least you have that aspect of it, right? Like the guy made the Diggs comparison earlier.
Yeah.
Diggs was dealing with a defensive-minded head coach who wanted to run the ball and didn't want to open things up because he wanted his defense to be in a good position at all times. Whereas this JJ is not going to have to worry about that.
Nope.
Well, and one, JJ got paid a lot.
Yep.
So they value him greatly, and he'll get the ball regardless who the quarterback is. So, obviously some quarterbacks are better than others, and your stats are going to be determined based off of. But he also has a coach that sets up a scheme where he gets open on times just based off the play call.
Yeah, and that's what's important because as we've seen tend to be, compared to the NBA with another local kid, Edwards has already expressed his frustration on a number of occasions about being double teamed. Teams have just decided we're going to let somebody else beat us. We're not going to let Ant drive to the hole, and we're not going to let him sit back there and take step back threes all day long. We'll double him and make somebody else beat us. Oftentimes, the Wolves have somebody else that can beat him. Other times, they don't. I saw a piece today. I don't know if it was CBS Sports or Athletic or AP or whatever, but they were showing Joker in what the Celtics did to him yesterday. He's in the paint. They collapse 4 on him. Now, he's one of the best passers to ever play the game, right? He's able to find open guys. But apparently the three-point shooting for Denver's really bad right now. And so they've just decided we're not, because Doncic is so good scoring down low. He can shoot from the outside too. So teams just come up with strategies. And that's what apparently people are starting to do with Denver now, just completely collapse into the paint and throw it out. And they had the stats now Murray can shoot the three, but the other 3 guys on the team were like, they couldn't make a thing. And so if you're able to do that, it's the same thing with Jefferson. If you take him out of the game, there were a number of games this year tend to be where he had 4 or 5 catches for, 65, 75 yards. Does a player get frustrated with that after?
Sure.
And if he does, he's really only got himself to blame, right? Well, you're that good. What do you expect? Teams aren't going to let you beat them. But then if it opens it up for other players make receptions, team moves the ball, team scores, team wins game, you got to be happy, right? But there are players that will get frustrated with that because, including Edwards, he said, I'm young, I want to score. And I'm sure Jefferson likes getting the ball. Even said, if you kind of read between the lines there, Liberty says, I can make quarterbacks look great. Throw me the ball, and he has done it. We've seen him in double coverage before make spectacular catches. So, but yeah, that could all change. But apparently he says today on the McAfee show, he doesn't care who the quarterback is, and I don't expect him to say anything different. You had some other news. Should we do that other side of the break then? Did you say?
Sure, just a couple, national football league
We'll do a couple of National Football League notes, and I've got some other controversial news to get to as well. So we'll take our final break at the Grom, and then we turn it over to Big Ticket and JG. They're both in-house here on The Fan. Couple 13-14 past. This is the final segment of the Grom. After listening, if you've been with us the entire show, it'll be 3 hours of someone who's uninformed, unprepared, unapologetic about it. We turn it over to poised, polished, and professional. Big Ticket, JG, there next. Before we talk about a couple of controversial topics, it's Warren's time. Warren, you're on The Fan. What's up?
Well, I want to confirm with you about the quarterback situation, but
Okay.
I think would be a great deal for the Vikings and the Steelers, and it's something I heard that could happen.
Where are you hearing this?
Troy Fontenot, their first round draft choice, had a leg injury
Okay.
early in the year, in the preseason.
What position does he play? What position?
He's a guard, and
Okay.
he's better. He was one of the best linemen that came out last year in a great line draft. So he's better than anybody that's out there.
Okay.
The proposal for that would be Dallas Turner trade to Steelers, and he fits better in their system anyway. For Fontenot. Okay, that's first thing.
Whoa. You want to trade Dallas Turner already? We moved up, 13, 14 spots to get him. You're willing to give up on him after 1 year?
Yes, I am, because if you got a great lineman, he has a better chance, and they need it. And this, going with what I said earlier, if you picked up them free agents I talked about on the line, they'll give you more and more linemen that you could bring in and out of the game. And I believe 100% with good linemen, you can switch them in and out. You're seeing more of that. But
all right.
Now get back to this quarterback situation, because this is what me and Dennis Green talked about a long time ago. Okay, if you got rid of JJ, and I don't know how anybody can believe everything, because one, their history on drafting, his injury problem, and I'll get back to why it's a bad idea to bring somebody in and have them do everything. I think it's totally wrong. This is a unique situation in the NFL, because the guy I think is the best guy available, and he hasn't had a chance to prove it, but every time he's in, he does well, is Easton Stick, who won national champion. He was with San Diego since he's a rookie behind their quarterback. He was in North Dakota, won national championships. This guy can do everything, and he never played bad game when he's been in. So just let's just say you sign a guy at a cheap level.
Oh, okay.
Here's the next thing. Here's the next thing you do. You got all these veteran quarterbacks out there that have had a little bit of. They're wondering if their careers are going to go anywhere.
Correct.
You sign one of those guys.
We got one of those. We got Danny Dimes.
Well, Jones, I say Jones stays here.
Okay. So how many quarterbacks do you want?
Well, this is where I'm getting to.
Okay.
If this is what happened to Darnold, he played all the time.
Yeah.
And when they fall down, it's confidence. What's the problem? Here's where you don't have that problem. You tell the guys that you're signing, I can make you more valuable than when you got here, because your career's on the downside. So what if you had 3 or 4 quarterbacks that could come in a game, every game, and perform well on short periods of time? This can happen because these guys have done it in the past.
Yeah. How about this?
So
what do you think of this? How about you sign 4 free agent running backs, and then you just have 4 different running backs? And for instance, like let's say last year, you would have signed Saquon Barkley for $10 million, Derrick Henry for $12 million, Joe Mixon for $7 million, and then the guy that we did get, Aaron Jones, for $7 million. You rotate those guys in and out. They stay fresh. They provide different challenges, different looks for other teams. It's sort of like your quarterback theory, don't you think?
It's similar, but it's different because.
Well, yeah, they play different positions.
If you got a guy that could, let's look at it this way.
I'm worried
about.
Let's say you
had a guy come in. Let's say you had a guy that came in each quarter, and they did extremely well.
I thought it was.
And you did this till something fell down.
I thought the running back
at the end of the season. If these guys are doing really well, not only will their value go up, I'll tell you what. If I had, let's say I signed a stick.
It's sort of like having what you're saying is like having quarterback U. It's like a quarterback university. We just churn out quarterback after quarterback after quarterback.
Well, here's a problem that these guys have in the NFL. Most of them don't play at all. Why would you have people on your team that never play? Why wouldn't you have them come in every game, be sharp? What if they perform really well every time they come in? This could be done, and I'll tell you what.
Okay.
Here's what really helps to them guys.
All right.
Okay. If you have let's say that every pass play that's out there. Okay. You have every play, every receiver goes out, and Dennis talked about this, and I know this works. If you have every receiver going out for a pass, a whole pattern, nobody knows who's going to get the ball. When you make that call, nobody
Sure.
knows. The only guy that knows is the quarterback.
Correct.
So the quarterback throws to the receiver he chooses, and why that helps is because you can't zero in on one guy. You're always got a guy that's on a route.
Did you talk
every
to Denny
single
when he was
time.
alive or during a seance?
No, we used to talk every day.
Okay, very good.
Think about that. If you had a guy that was on his route constantly, one deep, but you rotated them, the guys, I'm telling you right now, that's what hurts a team like the Vikings when you got the JJ. You're trying to force the ball
This
in,
is a lot.
and that's what hurts the.
I know this is a lot to digest here. Let me think
I understand,
about
but it comes down to the same thing.
Okay, thanks.
But I'm telling you that. Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Warren. Appreciate that. I'm beginning to worry because I thought my 4-5 running back idea was genius. Now Warren wants to do the same with the quarterback. I'm beginning to question my own sanity. Tenneby, let me ask you a question. I know you don't like either one, but if you were forced to rotate 4 running backs of high quality or 4 no-name quarterbacks in a game, which would you rather do?
4 no-name quarterbacks.
Because that's what he had. He had Stick.
Easton Stick.
Sounds
like a hockey player.
And some other guys. Which would you rather, if you had to pick one? I know you had to.
I mean, at least the running back's a little more proven.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have a running back whisperer on our staff?
Well, that's the other part.
We do have a quarterback whisperer.
Whew. That might have been his best call ever. It was so good. It actually started to
I had no idea he talked to Dennis Green every day.
Well, I know. Well, this is what I do worry about. Toward the end, he was starting to make a lot of sense about it. And then that's got to be me, right? Because he wasn't making sense to anybody else, I don't think. But it started to sound like a pretty damn good idea after a while. What other breaking news did you say? You have some tidbits?
Only got $20 in my pocket. I'm hunting, looking for a come up. This is awesome.
Let me try to guess.
Only got $20.
AFC or NFC?
AFC.
Quarterback?
No. Usually quarterbacks don't get tagged.
Yeah, that's true. What do you
You
got?
got to sign them long term. You got to lock them up. Guy who could have been the biggest wide receiver name available on the market is no longer on the market. No. T. Higgins.
Ooh.
He is, for the second straight year, the Cincinnati Bengals have popped a tag on T. Higgins, so he'll be eligible for a 1-year, $26.16 million contract for 2025. It still sounds like they're going to be trying to work out a long-term deal, but they've been trying to work out a long-term deal for him for a couple of years, and it has not been working. So T. Higgins off. Then I also saw this within the same wide receiver room in Cincinnati. Diana Rossini of The Athletic about an hour ago tweeted, Jamar Chase is the priority and expected to reset the non-quarterback market. Ooh. An offer has been made by Cincinnati, but the two sides remain far apart for now, per sources. So, Jamar is going after Justin Jefferson's contract. He's going to want to go up higher than him.
So what is Jefferson's again? Do you remember the exact numbers?
Oh, boy.
Was it $40 million a year? It wasn't that much, was it? I think it was. It's close. It was upper 30s, right? Or am I way off?
4-year, 140, so it's 35 a year.
35
with 110 guaranteed. So Jamar will be making more than that.
Yeah. How much more? What do you think that would be? Do you jump up to...
The fact that it said he's looking to reset the market...
Yeah.
Or he's expected to reset the quarterback market, but that they're still far apart.
Okay.
To me, that means Cincinnati is probably trying to go with like $36 million a year, and he wants 40.
Yeah. That's why the general managers get paid the big bucks, and that's why their jobs are always on the line. Because, you look at a team like Cincinnati. Wouldn't you like to have all the great wide receivers and one of the best quarterbacks? But does the quarterback make receivers look better? And do you want to give... How much do they pay Burrow a year now? Are they paying...
I'm sure he's in the 50s.
Yeah, so... And then you're going to give T. Higgins 26. Then you're going to have to give Jamar 40. Do you have money for anybody else? Can you even field a team? Who's going to block? Who's going to run the ball? Who's going to tackle? What do you do defensively?
Well,
That's a lot of money.
These wide receiver salaries have just been going higher and higher and higher. And for a while, to me, it made sense because the offensives have changed, right? The game has changed. It's more of a passing game. You need to have good, strong wide receivers. But it's now getting to the point where The wide receiver market is 35. Maybe Jamar goes up to $40 million. And your top running back is making 12.5. Like it might now be time to go, well, maybe we should be spending money on the elite running back and try to go cheaper at wide receiver.
Especially if you have a quarterback that can spin it. I got to think Joe Burrow.
I mean, Jamar Chase ain't throwing any, or excuse me, Pat Mahomes is not throwing to anybody that's making $35 million a year.
Exactly. Some of the other teams in the league, I mean, what do the Ravens have for wideouts?
They have, Zay Flowers is still on his rookie contract.
Okay. He's good, right?
Who else did they have last year? I'm trying to remember. I know Rashad Bateman, our former Golden Gopher, was like their third or fourth wide receiver.
Rams got a couple of good ones, right? Koopy Kupp. Now, he might be Dunzo.
Well, it looks like they're trying to trade him.
Right.
Puka Nacua is still on the rookie deal, I believe.
So, who does Josh Allen toss the ball at the pigskin to?
Well, he had Stephon Diggs.
Right, but now does he have any he's got one of the best in the league? Or is
Khalil Shakir is their number one wide receiver, and they acquired Amari Cooper from the Browns before the deadline. I'm not sure what his contract status is, whether he's still there or not.
Isn't he long in the tooth now,
Yeah,
too?
he's on the back nine of his career.
So, in other words, I think your best quarterbacks can make those wide receivers still look pretty good, but it's hard when you've got a guy like Jamar Chase on your roster already and T. Higgins. It's hard to look at your team and your fan base and go, yeah, we're going in another direction. Sort of like what happened down in Dallas with Doncic. You think about that locker room when you have to announce that we just traded Luka, and then you tell the fan base down there that they're protesting outside the stadium, for crying out loud. So yeah, it would be hard to tell Jamar Chase, sorry, we're not going to give you that kind of money. You can go elsewhere. So, I don't know. Any other breaking news out there?
Just looking through it right now. Doesn't appear so.
I got a couple of other news and notes I wanted to get to. I think we mentioned it a little bit earlier. Commanders acquire wide receiver Deebo Samuel in a trade with the 49ers. This is Stephen Wino, Washington Associated Press. Commanders have acquired wide receiver Deebo Samuel for a 5th-round pick pending a physical. Person spoke to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity because the trade cannot be made official until the start of the new league year on March 12th. He's 29. Adds another playmaker. Samuel had 51 catches for 670 yards and 3 tutties last year. Oh, he was injured much of the year, was he not? Or am I wrong?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, he's always got something going on. Well, that's it.
Well, it's sort of because of it's almost
the style of play,
right? And he's sort of like, it's almost like he's like a hybrid kind of a guy, right?
Yep.
Because he's wide receiver, he runs the ball, he does a lot of different things.
He's a yak guy, though. He's thick. You can throw some wide receiver screens to him. You can put him in the backfield.
Some people were trying to. I expressed, and I think maybe you agreed with me. Maybe not astonishment, but surprise. You could get him for a 5th-round pick. People were talking about, well, yeah, you got to work money into that, and then he's coming off an injury and all of that. But still, with a guy of that pedigree, I don't care who you are. I'd give a 5th-round pick for that guy at 29 years old.
If you can afford him in the salary cap,
yes.
And what people don't talk about enough, I guess it's a Warren statement, about Jaden Daniels' season is how much he elevated that team. And he didn't have a ton to work with him, right? Like, his number one wide receiver is Terry McLaurin, who's solid. After that, he did not have much for weapons offensively and still had an elite season. So you do kind of wonder if you're in Washington of, man, if we put some guys around him, how good could he be? And Deebo will definitely add to that.
Another football note. This is Dateline Philadelphia. This is Dan Gelston. Dan does a terrific job writing football for the Associated Press. Says Eagles are set to release 6-time Pro Bowl cornerback Darius Slay. We call him Big Play Slay, is what we used to call him back in Detroit. Again,
how old is he? I think he's been around.
Yeah, he's 34. I've already received a couple of text messages from fans from listeners that caught on to this, that said they think the Vikes should go after him because he's kind of a B-flow kind of a player. Slay, I mean, when he played for Detroit, he was brilliant. And then he went to Philadelphia, and I think he played well there also. Again, 34 in the National Football League is like 65 in radio terms. He's as old as I am, right? And it's like after a while you go, does he even know how much at 34? But Tenneby, I'm a big cunning and guile guy. I really am. I mean, would I rather have a young stud who can do it all? Sure. But if those guys are few and far between. So if it's like, would I want some younger guy that hasn't seen making mistakes out there? Or would I get a guy that's seen everything and you can spot him a little bit? I'd take Slay if I was the Vikings. I'd love to have him play for the Purple. The move.
And I'd forgotten until reading the Athletic story about Mekhi Blackman. Remember they drafted him and then he got hurt? So he's still in that cornerback room as well.
Think about there was another move Detroit made. I hated to watch Slay leave. But when they traded for him in March of 2020, they got a third and a fifth. That's pretty good for a player. I mean, third and a fifth, that's good. I think they missed Slay, but obviously they were still able to play without him because they've been pretty good the last couple of years. But
I'm sure Philadelphia was happy with that.
Oh, sure. Absolutely they were. I think both teams got something.
I mean, how often fifth-round picks contribute?
That's true.
Doesn't happen a whole lot.
You got to have depth guys, though. Tenneby, I'm a football guy, so I understand the depth positions. You got to have those depth guys. So, yeah. Here's a text message.
I mean, we did get our kicker this year in the fifth rounder, and
indeed we did.
Rosen tells us he's going to be the greatest kicker in Vikings history.
You guys are coming around. I wanted to trade JJ before the big contract. I've been saying trade him for Myles Garrett. Pretty good wide receivers are a dime a dozen.
I didn't say trade him.
No. And when he says,
I'm just saying the way the market is now to me overvaluing wide receivers and undervaluing running backs.
Yeah. And when he says you guys are coming around, I've been saying that for years. I've always said a really good quarterback can make an ordinary wide receiver look better than a really good wide receiver can make an ordinary looking quarterback. Now, guys like Chase and Jefferson might be the, what's that old cliche?
Exception to the rule.
Because Jefferson, I don't know, I think Cousins was better. A lot of people want to say, that's the thing, you can make arguments and counter arguments to almost everything. People were saying, quarterback whisper, Cousins had his best year. One of his best years with under O'Connell's system. He's also throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson too, right? And that makes a big difference too when you just throw it up for a guy like him. So it can make a difference. Big play Slay. Left play with big play Slay.
Left play.
I don't know. And there are a lot of people weighing in on the Jefferson situation here. Here's one, for instance. This is necessarily not weighing on the Jefferson. It says, spend money on the lines, trenches, earn wrenches. He goes, doesn't make any sense, but it rhymes. He's right. And you and I have always said, I think anybody and I've played the game, both sides of the ball, fierce pass rushing, rocket Gibraltar run stopping, precise route running, short out pass catching. Again, every team that wins a big game or is dominant for a few years, everybody wants to model their team after that. Look at what it's been widely reported. If you follow the game, Philadelphia, they've spent all of their high draft picks lately on offensive linemen and defensive linemen. They have the best offensive line in football, arguably, and their defensive line is pretty darn good, too, and they won the big game. So that is where you want to...
How often, though, do elite offensive linemen reach free agency? I feel like it doesn't happen very often,
well,
so you got to draft them.
That's exactly right.
You got to draft them, then pay them.
That is exactly right. This was fun today.
Oh, such a good day. I love being here so much.
You know, it's look, it ain't the Power Trip Morning Show TI takeover. I'm not gonna go crazy on it, but I thought it was fun today. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock. The Ben Johnson Show is at 12 noon tomorrow, the last Ben Johnson Show of the year. We'll talk to you at 1. Stick around. Big Ticket and JG. They're next here in the Fan.
Oh, boy.
Adios. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. Good night.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Minnesota!
Good night, folks. And good night, Mrs. Calabash. Wherever you are.
Timberwolves superfan KFAN Stan Barrero.
Listen back to any of Common Man's programs by podcasting on the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.